जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजन यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजन यमुनातीरवनचारी यमुनातीरवनचारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्णा हरे 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 राम राम हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्णा हरे 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 राम राम हरे हरे जय राधा गोपीनाथ श्री राधे जय राधा गोपीनाथ श्री राधे जय जय प्रभुपाद जय जय प्रभुपाद जय जय प्रभुपा नित्य गौर हरि बोल नित्य गौर हरि बोल नित्य गौर हरि बोल। श्री श्री राधा गोपीनाथ की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय, नित्य गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayet Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna everyone. I would like to welcome you all to today's discussion, which is part two, continuing on from yesterday. We're going to be discussing Sri Balram. And again, before I start, I'd like to thank and offer my humble obeisances to everyone for giving me this opportunity to speak. If I do happen to make any mistakes, which I will, please forgive me. Before we start, we'll do Mangalacharan. Om Ajnanatirandasya Jnananjana Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapatakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे भूतेर्महद्भिर्ययिमा पुरो विभु निर्माय शैते यदमोषु पुरुषा भुङ्क्ते गुणान् षोडश षोडशात्मका षोलं कृशिष्ट भगवान् वचांसि मे श्रीकृष्ण शरणागतं कथा अमृतं सत्सपीबतं भक्तिवेदान्त मार्गपन्थनं सर्वलोकऋषिदेव जन्न प्रसन्नं सर्वलोकऋषिदेव जन्न प्रसन्नम्. So once again, Hare Krishna everyone. So continuing on from yesterday, we're going to be discussing on the personality of Sri Balram. So as I stated yesterday, Sri Balram has Sankul Rati, which means that he serves Krishna in all his ways. And not just Balaram, but he also appears as Lakshman in Ramayana, as we see. So in Ramayana, it says Lakshmano Lakshmi Sampan, which means that the name Lakshman means wealthy. Now we know that in the middle of the forest, he's in the middle of the forest. What type of wealth does Lakshman possess? There's no bank account there. There's no assets. There's no homes. There's no money in the bank. He doesn't have anything that he's carrying. So he has nothing. But this, it says, Lakshmano Lakshmi Sampan. What he does have is the wealth of service to Sri Ram. So it says, Dhana Vina Vyartha Dadidra Jivana. The only wealth is to assimilate, the only wealth we want to assimilate is service towards Krishna or Ram. So Lakshman, what he would do was he would cut the grass for Sri Ram as a service, and he would make sure that not even a single piece of grass is sharp. And he would, when Sri Ram would come and walk, sometimes when there was pebbles or stones that could cause any sort of discomfort, Lakshman used to put his hands as stepping pods. Sri Ram just walk on his. That was the level of service, the level of dedication that Lakshman had towards Sri Ram. So when Sita and Ram, during the exile, they couldn't find a place to sleep at the beginning. Lakshman, at that point, he touched some holy water and he promised that for the next 14 years, while they were in the forest exile, that he will not sleep. Now, that is some sort of commitment to have. That was his promise. It was like his 14-year New Year's resolution. So at the start of the 14 years, he made this resolution and he kept it for 14 years. We make a New Year's resolution on January 1st. I'm going to start going to the gym, or I'm going to start doing this. January 3rd, that's it. It's finished. You're too tired. You don't have energy to fulfill that promise anymore. But Lakshman, he kept his promise, 14 years of forest exile, and he did not sleep at one point. And it is said during these 14 years, he would help Ram with everything. He would cut up the wood. He would make the huts. He would find food, find everything. It was his duty. And it says, Deepti Agni Aryam Va Yadi Raman Parichyasi. He said that if the forest is on fire and Ram has to enter the forest, I will enter before him, because I cannot stand to live to see my Lord to suffer. So he would, during these 14 years, he didn't sleep. He would collect water for Sita and Ram. He would make the huts for Sita and Ram. He would do everything. And during these years, he never at any point thought anything about himself. This is Balaram. He got shot by arrows of Indrajit. And what was that for? Why did he get shot? Just because he was saving the wife of his older brother. And in return, he was asking for nothing. And Lakshman, he's a very fiery personality. And Sri Ram was very, very mellowed down, very calm, very cool. You see this right now in teams around the world, in any sport. There's always that one person who gets fired up really quickly, and then the other person, very calm, cool, collected, who settles that person in the team. And this person's usually the captain, because he knows how to handle his team. Very cool, very calm, very collected. So Lakshman had a very fiery personality, and Sri Ram was very mellowed down. But when during Leela, Sugriva, he didn't keep his word. This Sri Ram, who was very mellowed down, this changed. So what actually happened was Sugriva and Sri Ram had signed a pact, a handshake deal, like we say nowadays, that you help me save my wife, I hope you save your wife. And they had a done deal, handshake, everything was confirmed, contract done, signed, and everything was perfect. And Ram killed Vali and returned Sugriva his wife. And then after that, once he had returned, when there's a promise, when there's a two-way promise, you expect, once one side is fulfilled, you expect the other side to be fulfilled as well. But what happened? Sugriva went on a 4-month honeymoon. He was not to be seen for 4 months. And that was the Chaturmas. The monsoon season all gone while he was enjoying. So Ramchandra, he waited. First month went by, second month went by, third month, fourth month, everything went by. And eventually he called Lakshman, and he told him that what has happened to Sugriv? I got his wife back for him, and I thought we had a pact. And he told Lakshman to tell Sugriv that the door that he opened to kick Vali out, it's still open. And he told Lakshman that you go and tell him. And Lakshman said, why do I only have to just tell him? I can go, I can kick him out, I can punish him if you want. This was Lakshman's personality, very fiery. He used to get very fired up. And I can go, I can kick him out, and I can also tell him, I can do everything. And Ram said, just take it easy, just relax. Just go and tell him, don't do anything else. And at this point, Sri Ram was getting fired up as well. He was very angry, and this was when Lakshman got very excited. He said, "This is the Ram I like. Fired up. I don't like the mellow, nice, calm person. I like this fiery um, Ram." And we see this. Anyone who's watched the old Ramayana that was on TV, we see in any situation, anything would happen, and Lakshman would quickly stand up. His eyes would get big, and he just wants to kill the person. He just wants to get into the fight, wants to get into the battlefield. And it's very funny sometimes when even the little tiny things, and I don't know, when Lakshman stands up and said, "I'll go finish it off." Anyone who's watched the old Ramayana, you know what I'm talking about. Now, this is the amount of service, the amount of selflessness that Lakshman has. He's so selfless that he always wants to serve Sri Ram. He doesn't care about himself. And this is bhakti means anya abhilashita shunyam. There are so many different definitions of bhakti. So one is anya abhilashita shunyam. Next one is sarvapadi vinimuktam tat paravena nirmalam rishikesha sevanam bhakti ruchyate. To serve the master of all the senses by engaging all our senses. I'm going to repeat this because it's a little bit confusing, but to serve the master of all the senses, which is Krishna, by engaging all our senses. So that's another definition of bhakti. Another one is Save Pumsam Paro Dharmo Yator Bhakti Radokshaje Ahetuki Apratihata Yayatma Suprasidati. Now, in another definition, there's that verse, there's the three other verses that I've said, and then there's another definition, and this definition is given by Rupa Goswami, and it is said that this definition is far greater than any of these. He says that no other desire, in fact, so much absorption and service that even a personal thought of our existence doesn't come into the picture. Now that is bhakti. When we are so absorbed, we are so in our service that our personal thought, our thought of our own existence doesn't come into the picture. Now, Nama Nityananda Prabhu, Tume Rupa Nityananda. So now, we'll move on to Nityananda Prabhu. Anyone who chants your name, he becomes ecstatic. Nama Nityananda Prabhu, Tume Rupa Nityananda. So Vrindavan Thakur says that if anyone hears the word Nitai, unlimited sins from unlimited births are burnt to ashes. So I'm just going to say this one more time. Unlimited sins from unlimited births are burnt to ashes. So that's 2 times already now. And we can all say it as well in the future or now. So just by hearing the word Nityananda, not even speaking it, just by hearing it, Nityananda, Nitai, 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 Nitai. Unlimited sins, unlimited births, burnt to ashes, sorry. So it is said that Krishna, he's like a fair judge. So, for example, Krishna, if there was an exam and you wrote 60%, then he'll give you 60%. He's very fair. He's like any high school teacher. Very fair. Sometimes not fair, but mostly fair. Where they give you deserve. Next is if let's say you get 60%, he gives you 60. You get 70, you get 70. If you get 20, he will give you 20%. There's no up or down. But then Gauranga Mahaprabhu, he is very merciful. Let's say you write 60%, he'll give you 80%. Let's say you write just something, you write your name on the test, he'll give you pass. He's that merciful. And then now we come to Nitai, Nityananda. He says that you just come for the test. Just come, and I'll do the test for you. So now, like, this is the amount of mercy that Nitai has. Now, how many of us can access this mercy in this day and age without Srila Prabhupada? None of us can. So Krishna puts justice of priority for priority. For example, we write 60, we get 60%. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, you write something, you attempt, and he'll give you a pass. Nita, you just come, that's it, he'll do it for you. And Prabhupada says, you just stay home. Just stay home, don't even come for the test. So Balram is manifesting in this. He is the service mood. So Balram is manifesting in Braja Leela, Ramachandra's pastimes. He's manifesting in jivas to serve Krishna. And those jivas who do not want to serve Krishna, he still comes, he still manifests himself, but as a guru. That is real mercy. Now, he's always serving. He is serving in Shantarasa, Dasirasa, Vatsalya Rasa, Sakhya Rasa, and Madhurya Rasa. And he is Shesha, which means whatever service is left over, he quickly comes and wraps it up, finishes off the service. He enjoys that last part of the service, finishes it off, doesn't leave anything to spare. And he creates service to complete. Now, he creates jivas to serve Krishna. He serves in all of his pastimes. And yet, if those jivas which have been created to serve Krishna, if they stray from their path, for example, everyone, if those jivas stray from their path, Balram says, no worries. And then he appears as Guru Tattva to save us and everyone. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he talks about this, and he says that if there's he gives a very good example. He says, if there is a fire, a big forest fire, we're used to this in Australia, we've seen big forest fires, how many buckets of water would we need to diminish the fire? Or how many big bottles of water would we need? How many pipes of water, whatever? How many do we need to diminish that fire? The fact is that the only thing big enough to diminish that fire is the ocean. Now, we can't just pick up our phone and be like, hello, ocean, can you just come and, diminish this fire which is like raging? We can't do that. So what's the one thing in common with the common person who is in this forest fire and the ocean? So anyone who's done Year 6 science will know this, the water cycle. So in the water cycle, there's the ocean and then the clouds. The cloud is the one common factor joining the ocean with the land. Now, the cloud through the water cycle collects water in his hand, or the cloud, and goes over to the forest, and he says that I am the only person that can save you. Even though we haven't called up the cloud, we called up the ocean, and the ocean couldn't come to us. But this cloud, without any call, without any message, no text message, comes, and even though we didn't call out for it, we called out for the ocean. It's the only person that can save us. And then whoosh, it releases the water from the ocean, saves us from the forest fire. Now, this is actually the purport of Samsara Dana. Samsara Davana Lalita Loka Tranaya Karunya Gana Ganatvam. That Gana Ganatvam, thick, dense clouds. Krishna is Karuna Sindhu, the ocean of mercy. Krishna is the ocean that I'm talking about. He's the ocean of mercy. And we are the forest. We are in this forest fire. We are in the forest fire of repeated births and deaths. So we're in this cycle. This forest fire just never ends. Now, if you think about it, this is very true. If you look at a forest fire, it's everywhere. It's raging. It's roaring. And this is in our lives as well. In our hearts, we're full of the fire of anger, lust, greed. In our mind, our thoughts are raging. We have 80,000 thoughts per day. Now, if you think about it, that's like one thought every single second we're thinking of something. Now, 80,000 thoughts, and yet we cannot concentrate any of these thoughts properly. So if you look at it, our thoughts in our mind, our hearts with anger, lust, greed, everywhere else, criticism, comments, and like just life in general, it's full of fire. And then now we live in Australia, there's real actual fires actually burning outside as well. So just to top all of this fire, there's actual fire as well. Now, we are burning from every angle, if we look at it from every angle. Yet when someone asks us, a classic example, someone asks you, says, how are you? We always reply, wonderful. I am the best. I am very happy. I'm enjoying. When we're actually in the middle of this spot that's always raging and it's never stopping. Now, Krishna is the ocean of mercy, and unless we approach him, he isn't accessible. Without approaching Krishna, he's not accessible. But Sri Balram, out of his causeless mercy, he is that cloud who brings some of that mercy from the ocean and then drops it onto us, which are like fallen souls in the forest. So Balram, without any reason, without just causeless mercy of his own, goes to the ocean and just out of his own mercy brings some of Krishna's mercy and chucks it onto us, our fallen souls in the forest fire. So Balram is the meaning of service. Balram is often called as Samasti Guru Tattva or Akhanda Guru Tattva, undivided, the origin. But when he manifests in living beings who are gurus, they are called as Vyasti Guru Tattva. So like the sun, a very good example to explain this, the sun, it can reflect different objects on different objects, and it can display many things. So it can reflect off a roof, it can reflect off anything, and it will have another display through that reflection. Now, similarly, a guru on this material world can come in different ways, in different backgrounds, in different ways, forms, the way they're dressed, everything can be different. But where is that tattva manifesting from? That is the one and only undivided sun, which is Balram. So Balram is like the sun, and then the reflecting points are like the gurus on earth. Now, today, we are sitting here underneath the shelter of Sri Radha Gopinath discussing about Balram. And who would have thought that this can be possible? I don't think any of us would have that mental capacity to think that something like this is possible. But if it weren't for one person and one person only, this wouldn't be possible. And that person is Prabhupada. Just because that one person decided to cross the ocean at the age of 70 for people who don't even know him, or he didn't even know. He had no contacts, he had no manpower, he had no money, he had no food, no clothing, no shelter. He had absolutely nothing. Yet, the only thing he did have was greater than all of those things combined. And the three things that he had. First thing he had the holy name on his tongue. Second thing, he had a firm faith in what he was preaching in his heart. And the third thing was that he had the blessings of Sri Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur on his head. These are three things that Prabhupada came with, and greater than all of the contacts, manpower, money, clothing, food, shelter, everything. Now, this is Balaram Shakti. This is the sort of mood Prabhupada would always serve. The first ever Bhagavad Gita was actually typed by Prabhupada, and Prabhupada didn't know that. He had no previous experience. Now that we think about typing in this modern age, we think, just use all your fingers and everything. It's very quick, very easy. Prabhupada typed the whole Bhagavad Gita with just one finger, like this. One finger, he took the whole Bhagavad Gita. And then, once the typewriter was stolen, the manuscript. Now, if we were in this position, Bhagavad Gita with one finger, so much effort, so much dedication. If this was to happen to us, it would be like, okay, just pack our bag, let's go back. There's no use, there's no point in helping. But what did he do? He just said, let me just go back and I'll write it all again. And what he did, he wrote it all again, just for us. Now, another thing about Prabhupada, when his disciples, they used to go and teach, they used to go and teach they went to one temple in South India, and the pujari inside said to them that you Americans, you form bhakti, that's fine. You follow your Maharaj, and maybe in the next life you can become a pujari in this very temple. And now all the disciples, they were shocked because Prabhupada had said something completely different, and they didn't know that we have to take this life to become a pujari in the next life and then go back to Krishna. They didn't know this process was involved, so they were all very shocked, and they went to Prabhupada and they asked, what's happening? Is this true? And Prabhupada told his disciples to go back to that pujari and tell him, you do your sadhana well, so that in the next life you can come back as an American, born into the International Society of Krishna Consciousness. This is Prabhupada. He's always serving, he's always supporting. And he's not only serving Krishna, he's also serving every single living entity that he is involved with. Now, another story of service. This is all due to Balram's mercy. Initially, Prabhupada's disciples, they couldn't pronounce the shlokas, and Prabhupada used to encourage them and say, just chant, it's fine. And now once what happened was a South Indian person, again at the back of the class, he said that he put his hand up and he said, these verses, they're all good, very good, you guys are saying them, but the pronunciation is completely wrong for every single one of them. Now Prabhupada said, oh, you seem like a very scholarly person, why don't you come and teach us? And this person said that, okay, I can come, but I can only come once a week because I live very far away. So Prabhupada said, why don't you live at the temple? You can teach every single day. And this person agreed. He said, okay, I'll live at the temple. And then he came to the front and he said, so what are the rules of this temple? What do I have to do to stay here? And Prabhupada said, no meat eating. He said, yep, done. No gambling. Yep, done. No illicit sex. Done. No intoxication. Done. No tea. Done. No coffee. Once Prabhupada said no coffee, he said, maybe the pronunciation isn't that bad. It's all right. They're all right. I'll just go back and sit down in my spot. So again, at this, Prabhupada was always serving. He's always protecting his devotees. This is very funny. So Prabhupada was serving all the time, and this is where does all this come from? All this potency is coming from Balram. Without Balram, there's no tendency to serve. A personality who's serving in always another personality who was serving in always possible was Jayananda Prabhu. Now Jayananda Prabhu was serving all the time. He was cleaning pots, pans at night. He was driving Prabhupada from street to street, and all of this was while he was working a full-time job, giving 100% of his salary to Prabhupada. Now can you imagine serving a bull all day, cleaning pots and pans at night, driving Prabhupada everywhere, and still working a full-time job? After your job, when you get your income, 100% of his salary was going to Prabhupada. And on top of all of this, he was almost as if he didn't have enough. He was temple president on top. Now, he would change garbage one day he was changing the garbage bags of the temple, and a person came in and he saw Prabhu and he's like, he's in so much ecstasy, he's so happy. And he thought to himself, if this garbage man, if he is so ecstatic, so happy, what to speak of all the other devotees, all the other devotees in the congregation, and what to speak of the temple president? What he didn't know was Prabhu was actually the temple president. So there was just so much compassion there. Now, the amount of service that Jayananda Prabhu used to do was, he used to go to an apple tree. He used to chant in front of the apple tree for 30 minutes. Sorry, he used to chant in front of the apple tree. He used to offer whole apple trees, whole fruit trees to Krishna. After offering, he would take the apples and he would give to devotees. It would be prasad. And then it's not like he he just took the apples after chanting in front. He would, after taking the apples, he would go back, and then for 30 minutes to each tree, he would read the Krishna book in return. This was the mood of Jayananda Prabhu. And Jayananda Prabhu, when he had cancer, when he was told that he had cancer, his family sent him the whole treatment money and everything. And once he received all the money, the first thing he did was 100%. He didn't keep a cent for himself. 100% of that cancer treatment money he gave to Prabhupada. Now, cancer isn't like anything to joke about. So when Prabhu went to hospital, and at that point he was in a very glamorous hospital. He had his own room, which was very beautiful. Everything was nice. And once the devotees came into his room, and Prabhu was nowhere to be found, and all they saw was Prabhupada's photo with a garland on the bed, and they saw Jayananda Prabhu was on the floor sleeping. And they asked, "What are you doing? This is your room." And he said that if I am sleeping on the bed, where will my guru sleep? So if I am on the floor, then my guru can sleep on the bed. This was the sort of mood, this was the sort of service that Jayananda Prabhu did. He used to preach at the hospital. Can you imagine? You have cancer, everything is not going well, and you decide to preach at the temple. And everyone, the hospital staff started complaining that, why are you teaching? Your condition isn't well. And Prabhu used to say, I don't like this cancer. I'm just going to leave the hospital. I don't like this. I want to preach. That was the mentality he had. He never wanted to stop. And this was the mood. This is the amount of service that this Prabhu did. And his last letter before his passing was a letter to Prabhupada. And in that letter, he said that my body is deteriorating, and this is my last salary. And in that letter, he gave Prabhupada his last salary before departing. This is it kind of gives you goosebumps when you think about it. The amount of service, the amount of dedication, whole life dedicated to Prabhupada, to Krishna. So how can someone be so selfless in their service? And this can only be done through blessings of Lord Balram. This can only be done through service, through chanting, through reading Srimad Bhagavatam, following the regulative principles. This can only be done through that. Now, Sri Balram, any ray of hope, of service, so let's say I think about, I want to serve tomorrow, or I want to serve this, that ray, that thought that we have is Sri Balram. So Balram is always serving. What happened was, he appeared 15 days before Sri Krishna. And why did he appear that early? To prepare for arrival of Krishna. Service again. Nityananda Prabhu, 13 years before he arrived, before Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And those 13 years, he was the most quiet boy. And then as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared, Nityananda Prabhu was crying, singing, loud, ecstatic. Just that something happened that night when Mahaprabhu appeared that just gave him the energy and just gave him that boost. For the first 13 years, very quiet and sweet, So in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1.1.12, it is said that Bhakti is defined as service to the Lord using the senses. It should be done with the intention of pleasing the Lord, free from other material desires and unobstructed by other processes. Again, this is another definition of Bhakti. In Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 3, it is said that there are characteristics of transcendental loving service to Purushottama, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is without other desires, and it is not contaminated by karma and jnana. This is a type of bhakti. Now, bhakti, it is said that my devotees do not accept salokya, sarsti, sarupya, and samipya, which means or oneness with me, even if I offer these liberations in preference to serving me. This is called, and it is declared as the highest object of human pursuit. Prabhupada, in one of his letters, he says that the spiritual master and Krishna are like two parallel lines. The train on the two tracks moves forward. The spiritual master and Krishna are like these two tracks. They must be served simultaneously in order for the train to go. If one goes and the other goes, then it's turns and stuff. But you need to be serving them both simultaneously, like the wheels of a train, so they can continuously thrive and drive and go forward. Now, Krishna helps one to find a bona fide spiritual master and a bona fide a spiritual guide, and helps you to understand. And if one does not get a spiritual master, how can one understand Krishna? Well, you cannot serve Krishna without a spiritual master, or serve just spiritual master without serving Krishna. Again, the two train tracks, they must be served simultaneously. Now, most people, they do not finally differentiate between the two words of Jiva Seva and Jiva Daya. Usually a person fails to properly understand the distinguishing characteristics of Jiva Seva and Jiva Daya, and therefore ends up with understanding which is the opposite of truth. And in this world, many people, they cherish the desire to be celebrated. And we can see this by the amount of famous people, they well-wishers of society. Now, because these do not understand the subject, the efforts within, like what we are actually on this earth for, the purpose, the culmination of all these efforts that they're performing, or that they're well-wishers and like good people. It's like labor. It's like labor of animals. They're just working for no purpose. Now, the people of the world are, I'll rephrase this. People of the world are engrossed in their bodily comforts, and in this they are fulfilling any selfish desire. This is me, this is everyone. And if that same desire is actually, the attitude of that desire is changed to serve others, it is perceived very greatly. And we can see this by the amount of philanthropists and stuff. Just by serving someone else who is not themselves, they are greatly appreciated. It is like virtue. Service to others, para seva, is a virtue. However, if you're deceiving others, para chalna, it can never be praiseworthy. Now, some people, through their service, are doing this. They are deceiving other people, trying to show them that I am actually helping you, when rather they're helping you because they are getting something back in return. It's not selfless. Now, simply applying the label of service to acts of deception and propagating them as service does not make them service. And in this day and age, we don't think about this, because when we think of helping other people, our first response is, what are they going to do for us in return? And that is completely wrong. That shouldn't be our aim. Our aim should be, I will help you, expecting nothing in return. Selfless acts of service. In the terms of para seva and para upakara, the word para means topmost. In other words, it means Paramatma Vishnu. Thus, the word para only refers to the service of Paramatma, the topmost entity. In the sense, the jiva is also para, it's superior to, let's say, animals. But as long as we are trapped within these three modes of material nature, we're never going to get out of that. Yaya samohito jiva atmanam trigunatmakam paropi manyute nartham tatkirtim ka bipadyate. Due to external energy, the living entity, although transcendental to the three modes of material nature, thinks himself to be a material product, and thus undergoes the reactions of material miseries to render service to a jiva who has not been conditioned from a time without a beginning. Yeah, so whose consciousness is covered by the three modes of these material nature and three modes of Maya, and who is distracted from his constitutional position, is to render service to the condition plagued by anarthas. In other words, service is to be rendered to enable himself to fulfill his enjoying propensity. Now, this is us. Now, we are performing service because we're going to be receiving something in return, and thus we are more persuaded, that's the wrong word, but more into serving other people because we receive something in return. And a classic example of this is when you're walking down the street and you help someone with their bag. First thing I've seen, you see this in movies and everything, first thing that person does is wants to pay you for your service. Now, at that point, every person would accept that donation as such, when it should be that selfless act to help, to serve. That is the difference between us and a more superior person, because they know the difference between us performing service for a good reason and performing service for just for your own selfish desires. So once a story time. So once the cowherd boys, they requested Krishna and Balram that let us go together, because if you are with us, then nothing can harm us. So Balramji, they went, and Krishna, they went into the Talavan forest, and Balram went to a big tall tree and started shaking it, and he was very powerful. And Balram was someone who loved to exhibit his feats of spiritual strength. And as he was shaking, a big tall fruit fell to the ground, and all the cowherd boys came running, and they offered it to Balram, they offered it to Krishna, and they were eating it together. It was a very beautiful scene. Now, everyone was happy together, and this is Vrindavan. Everyone's happy together. Everyone's giving pleasure to Krishna and to Balram, and which is Krishna and a guru, by enjoying the fruit together. And while they were enjoying, the one person that didn't enjoy this at all, he was very angry, was Dhenukasura. And this is the natural state of an asura. They cannot stand anyone to be happy. Now, when I say they cannot stand anyone to be happy, immediately we have so many, everyone's going to have one mind, or someone's going to think of someone who is like this, a modern day asura. The asura is just not as big, not as scary, wears jeans and a top or something. It's just a modern day asura. Now, the more they see devotees happy, the more they see people happy, the more they want to destroy them. Envious people. They hate to see other people happy. And they want to enjoy the fruits for themselves without serving, without helping anyone else, without giving it to anyone else. Exclusive. That fruit that fell, that's mine, all of it, 100%. Now, Dhenukasura, he could not tolerate that. How are these guys enjoying this fruit without me? That was my fruit. It's like a very childish thing if you think about it, that if a child is playing with a toy and you take that toy away, the child's going to be like, no, that's mine. That approach, that this is mine, that word mine and I, that very important word. So he came charging and screaming, and this is not a small asura like nowadays. This is a big asura. It is explained that he is like a big mountain, big like a mountain. So he approached Balram, and with all his strength in his legs, he turned around, and with all his strength, he started kicking Balram in the chest. And as Balram does, he just stood there, just tolerating these massive blows, just casually, just like. And Balram thought, "What is this? This demon must have come to an end, to enjoying these fruits." And then, because this was his abode, and he considered this, he said that whatever fruits are here, they are mine to enjoy. That's what this asura was thinking. And this sounds very familiar. This is my house to enjoy. This is my car to enjoy. My money in my bank account, which I will enjoy by myself. This is called the Dhanakasura consciousness, and we all have this consciousness in some way, small, big, but we all have this. Now, anyone who thinks like this has this consciousness, me included. Any sort of little thing where this is mine. That university degree is mine. Even though you worked hard for it, it's not yours. That's mine. That fruit, that dinner I'm eating, that is mine. We are all Dhanukasura. We all have his consciousness. And this isn't to offend anyone. Please don't take it the wrong way. It's just the consciousness that we've developed by living in this material world. But it's the truth. Now, it's like an example that Radhanath Swami Maharaj he gives that what does a donkey think of? I think a donkey works hard all day long. His mouth is foaming with thirst. He wants something to drink. He wants to eat. And why does he work so hard all day? He works so hard all day just for that little sense of enjoyment. And what does he get for his work? He gets those food to eat. The fruits of my action are mine to enjoy, which is wrong. Now, this is animal consciousness. You work for something, you get it, and that is mine. What we need to develop is Balram consciousness, which is always serving. How can this be done? Now, something like consciousness can only be done through, I'm going to repeat because this is something that we should know, is through the necessities of devotional service. Now, they are described by Prahlad Maharaj in the 7th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. And it says, to hear what about Sri Vishnu's transcendental name, his form, his characteristics, his possessions, his pastimes, and to hear and chant about his pastimes, to remember them, to serve the lotus feet of the Lord, to respectfully offer service to the Lord, to offer prayers to the Lord, to become his servant, to consider the Lord as one's best friend, and to offer everything to him. Are these 9 processes which are recognized as pure devotional service. Now, these 9 are, there's a very famous verse that we've all heard. So the first one of this verse is Shravanam, hearing. So we see an example, Maharaj Parikshit, 7 days of his last life, he was just hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. Secondly, it was chanting, Kirtanam, Sukadev Goswami, he spoke the Bhagavatam to Maharaj Parikshit, and also chanting ourselves, we can know, chanting on our beads. 3, remembering, Vishnu Smaranam, Prahlad Maharaj, he never forgot Krishna despite what his father Hiranyakashipu was doing at the time. So much constant torture, so much constant uncomfortable situation that his dad was putting him in. And what did he do? He never forgot Krishna, always remembering. So we've gone through 3 at the moment: hearing, Shravanam, chanting, Kirtana, remembering, Vishnu Smaranam. Now the 4th one is serving the Lord's lotus feet, Pada Sevanam. So Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune, she is always engaged in serving the lotus feet of the Lord. That is the sort of service. We need to serve the lotus feet of Krishna, and like Lakshmi Devi. Now the 5th one is deity worship, which is Archanam. So Maharaj Prithu used all his royal possessions in order to offer them as pure devotion to the Lord. Number 6 is praying, Vandanam. Akrura, he offered prayers to Krishna when he was when he was traveling to Vrindavan in order to see Krishna. He offered prayers. That's Vandanam, offering something, praying. So we've gone through 6. Another repetition: hearing, chanting, remembering, serving the lotus feet, deity worship, praying. Number 7 is executing orders, dasyam. So like Hanuman, the intimate servant of Ramachandra, executed all of Ramachandra's orders despite all these kinds of difficulties that he had. Also, like Lakshman, he was serving Ramachandra. He had so many difficulties at the stage where Sita was kidnapped by Ravan, at that point, Sita Mata said, "Go save your brother Ram," and Ram said, "Don't leave." That is uncomfortable, difficult situation even for someone who's serving you. So, but still executing orders, dasyam. Number 8, serving as a friend, sakyam. So Arjuna, he was very close to Krishna, and the Lord offered himself to become his chariot driver and to serve Arjuna and his brothers in various ways. So sakyam. And number 9 is complete surrender, atma nivedanam. Bali Maharaj, he gave Vamandev his entire kingdom, all his possessions as well as his own body, even though his own spiritual master was against it. But this is complete and utter surrender. Atma Nivedanam. So we'll go through these 9 again. Hearing, Shravanam, chanting, Kirtanam, remembering, Vishnu Smaranam. Number 4, serving the lotus feet of the Lord, Pada Sevanam, deity worship, Archanam, praying, Vandhanam, executing orders, Dasyam, serving as a friend, Sakyam, and complete and utter surrender, Atmanivedanam. So this is the end of my whatever I'm doing today and yesterday. So to finish off, I'll finish off with a verse that I said yesterday, which I think really sums up everything. Sarva Avatari Krishna Swayam Bhagavan Dhanahara Dvita Deha Shri Balaram. Sarva Avatari Krishna Swayam Bhagavan Dhanahara Dvita Deha Shri Balaram. To get out of this forest fire and to gain mercy from the ocean, which is Krishna, we need to constantly hear. We need to constantly chant the Mahamantra. Also, to follow in the footsteps of Sri Balram, we need to serve. We need to continuously serve because that is our natural tendency as humans to do. Our natural tendency as humans are actually to serve. So these are a few things. So chanting, hearing, and serving. So if we follow these 3, hopefully, if our minds are set, we can get somewhere. So again, I would like to thank everyone for joining today and yesterday as well for this discussion of Sri Balram. I hope the main point that we can take away from these 2 days, if we took away nothing else, just one point is that during this difficult period, especially now during COVID-19, try to serve each other with compassion, help each other, and most importantly, serve Krishna and Balram. So thank you everyone for listening so attentively, and I hope we can continually serve each other, hopefully get somewhere. So Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai, Chaitanya Charitamrita ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Thank you everyone. Thank you.